Be me, Hannah, 28, working in corporate accounting. Think I'm educated, woke, fighting the good fight against oppression. Every day at work becomes a battleground to educate these privileged men around me. They just don't get it, refuse to acknowledge their advantages. Sitting in morning meeting, Sean from IT mentions he's been working 60-hour weeks to meet deadline. Must be nice having all that extra energy from not dealing with workplace harassment, I mutter loud enough for him to hear. He looks at me confused. What does that even mean, Hannah? Means you don't have to worry about being taken seriously or having your ideas stolen by colleagues. Entire room goes quiet. Sean's face reddens. Hannah, I've been passed over for 3 promotions this year. My manager explicitly told me they needed more diversity in leadership positions. Roll my eyes so hard they practically fall out. Oh, boo-hoo, one tiny setback and suddenly you're oppressed? Try being a woman literally every day. Sean stands up, voice rising. You know what, Hannah? I'm sick of this. Every conversation with you becomes about how terrible men are. Here we go. Typical male fragility. Maybe if you listened instead of getting defensive, you'd learn something, Sean. His jaw clenches. I have listened. For months I've listened to you. Tell me my struggles don't matter. My perspective is invalid. My existence is somehow harmful. Cross my arms because it's true. You benefit from systems designed to keep women down. What systems, Hannah? Show me one policy, one rule in this company that favors men. Scoff loudly. It's not about written policies. It's about implicit bias, cultural conditioning. Sean's voice gets louder. So basically anything you can't prove but feel is true. Typical male response, demanding evidence for lived experiences. He slams his hand on table. My lived experience is working twice as hard for half the recognition. Being told my opinions matter less because of my gender. Walking on eggshells around colleagues like you who twist everything into oppression. That's not the same thing at all. Why not? Because I'm male? Because my feelings don't count? Because you don't understand intersectionality or how privilege actually works? Sean laughs bitterly. Intersectionality? You mean the concept that lets you dismiss anything I say by pointing to characteristics I can't control? It's about recognizing advantages you refuse to acknowledge. What advantages, Hannah? Being automatically assumed to be aggressive? Having my parenting questioned? Being viewed as a potential threat in every interaction? Wave hand dismissively. Those aren't real problems compared to systemic oppression women face. His face turns red with anger. There it is, right there. You just proved my point. Anything men experience gets minimized, dismissed, invalidated by you. Because it's not the same level of, stop, Sean shouts. Just stop talking over me for once and listen. You have never, not once, acknowledged that I might have valid concerns. You treat every man here like we're your personal enemy. Feel defensive anger rising, because men collectively benefit from oppressing women. I've never oppressed anyone, Hannah. Neither has David, or Robert, or anyone else here. We're just trying to do our jobs, and you make us feel like criminals for existing. Shrug. Maybe examine why you feel so threatened by discussions of equality. Sean stares at me in disbelief. Equality? This isn't equality. This is you standing on a soapbox lecturing us about our moral failings while refusing to treat us as human beings. Meeting ends with everyone uncomfortable. Sean storms out. Whatever, not my problem if he can't handle truth. Next week, David from sales approaches my desk. Hannah, can we talk? I wanted to discuss what happened in the meeting, already preparing for another fragile male ego explosion. Sure, David, ready to actually listen this time? His face hardens immediately. See, that's exactly what I mean. You assume I'm the problem before I even speak. Well, are you here to apologize for Sean's outburst? No. I'm here because his outburst was completely justified and frankly long overdue. Lean back in chair. Oh, really? Please enlighten me. David pulls up a chair, voice tight with controlled anger. Hannah, do you remember when I mentioned my son was struggling in school? Vaguely. Why? Because when I said teachers were telling him to be less disruptive and control his energy, you immediately said, boys need to learn. They can't dominate classroom spaces. Shrug, they do. Male socialization teaches entitlement. He's 7 years old, Hannah. 7. And he has ADHD. But you immediately made it about gender oppression instead of a child needing help. Early intervention is important for addressing problematic behaviors. David's voice rises. Problematic behaviors? He's a little boy who can't sit still, not a future oppressor. The fact that you see malice in a child's medical condition says everything about your mindset. I see patterns that need to be interrupted before they become ingrained. You see what you want to see. When my divorce went through and I got limited custody despite being the primary caregiver, you said it was probably because I hadn't been emotionally available enough. Remember that conversation? Well, statistically nothing. You didn't ask about the situation. You didn't consider that maybe, just maybe, family courts have biases too. You assumed I deserved it because I'm male, starting to feel annoyed. Men complaining about custody is usually code for what, Hannah? For loving our children? For wanting to be involved parents? Do you hear yourself right now? I hear someone who probably wasn't as involved as he claims. David stands up abruptly. There it is again. Immediate dismissal. Immediate assumption of guilt. You know what, Hannah? My ex-wife even admitted I was the better parent. She got custody because the judge said children need their mothers, despite evidence I provided better care. Roll eyes. That sounds convenient. Convenient? I have recordings of the proceedings. I have documentation. I have character witnesses. But none of that matters to you because it doesn't fit your narrative that men are always the villains. One anecdote doesn't disprove systemic patterns. His voice cracks with emotion. It's not an anecdote to me, Hannah. It's my life. It's seeing my son twice a week instead of every day. It's being treated like a stranger to my own child because of my gender. Maybe focus that energy on fighting actual injustice instead of what? Instead of expecting basic empathy from a coworker? Instead of hoping someone might consider that men can be victims too? Sigh dramatically. Men can't be victims of sexism. That's not how power structures work. David laughs bitterly. Power structures? Hannah, I make less money than my ex-wife. I have less education. I have no family support system. I lost my home, my savings, and daily access to my child. Where exactly is this power I supposedly have? Cultural power? Social privilege? The benefit of the doubt? What benefit of the doubt? You've given me none. You've assumed the worst about every situation I've shared. You've dismissed every struggle I've mentioned. How is that privilege? Feel defensive because your struggles aren't systemic. They're individual, unfortunate circumstances. According to who, you? Based on what expertise other than your predetermined beliefs about men? Getting irritated with his persistence, based on understanding how oppression actually works. David's face flushes red. Oppression? You want to talk about oppression? Try being told your love for your child is suspect because of your gender. Try being assumed to be an abuser or predator in every interaction. Try having your pain minimized and dismissed by people who claim to care about equality. That's not the same as systematic exclusion from power, isn't it, when I can't get equal treatment in family court? When I'm viewed with suspicion for coaching my daughter's soccer team? When colleagues like you treat me as guilty by association with every bad man who ever existed? Wave hand. Those are individual incidents, not patterns. His voice becomes shaky with rage. Individual, Hannah, suicide rates among divorced fathers are through the roof. Male teachers are leaving education because they're viewed with suspicion. Boys are failing in schools that increasingly cater to learning styles that favor girls. But none of that matters because it doesn't fit your oppressor narrative. Men created those problems themselves through toxic masculinity. David stares at me in shock. So when men suffer, it's their own fault. But when women suffer, it's men's fault. Do you see how convenient that logic is for you? Shrug, that's just how patriarchal systems function. He shakes his head. You're hopeless, Hannah. Absolutely hopeless. You're so invested in your ideology that you've lost basic human decency. Walks away, muttering about how impossible I am to reason with. Whatever, not my job to coddle male feelings. A few days later, Robert from HR requests meeting, assuming someone complained about my confrontational communication style. Sit down in his office with arms crossed, ready for battle. Hannah, we need to discuss your interactions with male colleagues. Immediately go on offensive. Are you seriously tone policing me right now? This is exactly the kind of silencing women face. Robert holds up hand. Please let me finish. Multiple employees have complained about feeling targeted and harassed. Harassed for pointing out their privilege? That's rich. Hannah, calling Sean's work concerns invalid because of his gender is harassment. Telling David his parenting struggles are deserved is harassment. It's called education, Robert. Maybe this company needs more diversity training. His jaw tightens. Diversity training doesn't include attacking people for their immutable characteristics. I'm not attacking anyone. I'm highlighting systemic inequalities. Robert leans forward, voice rising with frustration. You told Sean his depression was probably just male fragility. You told David his custody situation was karma for patriarchal oppression. You told James his workplace injury didn't matter because women face worse. How is any of that educational? Feel defensive. I'm providing alternative perspectives they need to hear. Alternative perspectives? Hannah, these are human beings sharing personal struggles, and you're responding with cruelty disguised as activism. Truth isn't always comfortable, Robert. His voice gets louder. Truth? What truth? That men deserve suffering? That their pain doesn't matter? That they're inherently evil? That they need to acknowledge their complicity in oppressive systems? By destroying their self-worth? By dismissing their humanity? By treating them as enemies rather than individuals? Shrug. Sometimes discomfort is necessary for growth. Robert stands up, face red with anger. Discomfort? Hannah, Sean had a panic attack after your last conversation. David is considering quitting. James feels unsafe coming to you with any work issues. This isn't discomfort, it's workplace bullying. Typical response: protect male feelings at the expense of important conversations. Male feelings? These are employee well-being issues, Hannah. Basic human decency issues. You're creating a hostile work environment. Hostile for whom? For the people who benefit from keeping oppressive systems in place? Robert's voice cracks with exasperation. Oppressive systems? Hannah, we work in accounting. We process invoices and manage budgets. No one here is oppressing anyone except you, oppressing your male colleagues with constant attacks. That's minimizing the cultural impact of everyday interactions. Everyday interactions like treating people with basic respect, like acknowledging their shared humanity, like listening to their concerns without immediately attacking them, roll eyes, like prioritizing male comfort over female liberation. Robert slams hand on desk. There's no female liberation happening here, Hannah. There's just you being cruel to decent people who've done nothing wrong except exist while male. Existing while male is the problem when you don't examine your privilege. Privilege? Sean works 60-hour weeks and can barely afford rent. David lost everything in his divorce. James injured his back and had to fight for workers' compensation. Where's their privilege? Cultural privilege? Social privilege? Assumed competence. His face contorts with rage. Assumed competence? You assume incompetence before they even speak. You assume malice in every interaction. You assume guilt without evidence. How is that fair? Fairness isn't the goal. Justice is. Justice? What's just about punishing innocent people for societal problems they didn't create? Feel my conviction wavering slightly but push through. They benefit from those problems whether they created them or not. Robert's voice becomes deadly serious. Hannah, if you don't change this behavior immediately, we'll have to discuss termination. This company cannot tolerate discrimination against any group, including men. Discrimination? You can't discriminate against privileged groups. Watch me write you up for gender-based harassment and see how that goes. Storms out of his office feeling victimized. These men just can't handle having their worldview challenged. Next few weeks, notice male colleagues avoiding me. Good. Maybe they'll finally examine their complicity in oppressive systems, start eating lunch alone, working on projects solo. Company announces team building retreat, mandatory attendance. Great. Trapped with these fragile egos for an entire weekend. Retreat center in mountains, isolated location. Immediately notice how men naturally group together, probably strategizing against me. First activity is trust exercises. Deliberately avoid partnering with any men. During group discussion about workplace communication, can't help myself. Maybe we should discuss how male voices dominate these conversations. Eye rolls around the room. Sean looks exhausted. Hannah, you've been talking for 10 minutes straight, David points out, because I'm providing necessary perspective that gets ignored. Robert jumps in. We agreed to listen to all viewpoints equally. Equal time doesn't mean equal validity when some viewpoints perpetuate oppression. Can see male colleagues exchanging frustrated looks. Whatever. Their discomfort proves I'm making important points. Second day. Facilitator announces emergency. Flash flooding washed out only access road. We're stuck until rescue crews can rebuild bridge. Initial panic, then settling into extended stay reality. Men immediately start organizing supplies, checking communications, planning logistics. Typical. Jumping straight to control and dominance. Announce I'll organize meal planning since men probably can't handle equitable distribution. Sean looks at me incredulously. Hannah, we're trying to coordinate basic survival needs. Exactly why we need inclusive leadership instead of default male authority. David shakes his head. This isn't about authority. It's about making sure everyone has food and shelter through patriarchal organizational structures that center male decision-making. Robert throws hands up. For God's sake, Hannah, we're stranded in the wilderness, and you're still lecturing about gender theory. Feel vindicated that crisis reveals their true nature. Insist on separate task committees with gender parity requirements. Men grow increasingly frustrated as basic tasks become complicated by my structural demands. Why does gathering firewood need a diversity analysis, Hannah? James asks. Because resource allocation reflects power dynamics that need conscious examination. Can see several men walking away mid-conversation. Clearly can't handle intellectual challenge. By third day, everyone's patience wearing thin. Food running low. Weather getting worse. Still no word from rescue teams. Men working together efficiently while I provide critical oversight of their methods. Sean approaches my shelter area looking defeated. Hannah, we need to discuss rationing protocol. Finally ready to include female perspectives in decision-making? His voice cracks with exhaustion. There are no female or male perspectives on food rationing. There are just math and survival. Typical reductionist thinking that ignores intersectional implications. Sean sits heavily on log, puts head in hands. Hannah, I can't do this anymore. I just can't. We're potentially facing life-threatening situation, and you're treating it like a graduate seminar. Maybe because crisis reveals how quickly groups revert to oppressive dynamics. He looks up with tears in eyes. Oppressive? We've been making sure you have equal food, equal shelter space, equal say in every decision. How is that oppressive? Feels slightly uncomfortable seeing him this upset, but push through. Equal participation doesn't address historical marginalization. His voice breaks. Historical? Hannah, there's no history here. There's just 20 people trying not to die in the woods, and you've spent 3 days making everything harder with constant criticism. Harder for whom? For people used to making unilateral decisions. Sean starts crying openly. Harder for everyone, Hannah, including me, including you. You haven't contributed to any actual survival tasks because you've been too busy analyzing the gender implications of everything. Feel defensive. Intellectual labor is still labor. Intellectual labor? You've been complaining, just complaining, while we've been gathering food, building shelter, maintaining fire, checking on everyone's safety. Notice for first time how exhausted all the men look. David approaches, face gaunt with fatigue. Hannah, we just got radio contact. Rescue teams can't reach us for potentially 2 more days. We need everyone working together. Immediately suspicious. Working together under whose leadership structure? David's voice rises with desperation. Under survival structure, Hannah. Under not dying structure. Under basic human cooperation structure. Cooperation often masks power imbalances that need examination. He grabs my shoulders, eyes wild. Examine them later. After we survive, please. Shake off his hands. Don't touch me without consent. That's exactly the kind of boundary violation I'm talking about. David staggers backward like I slapped him. Boundary violation? Hannah, I was begging you to help us survive. All of us, including you. Through emotional manipulation and physical intimidation. Breaks down completely, sobbing. Manipulation? I'm scared, Hannah. We're all scared. And instead of helping, you've spent 3 days tearing us down when we're already at breaking point. Robert approaches, looking haggard. Hannah! James collapsed, gathering firewood. Robert twisted his ankle, checking perimeter. Sean hasn't slept in 2 days, coordinating food supplies. And you've criticized every single thing they've done. Feel first flicker of doubt. I've been providing necessary feedback about problematic approaches. Necessary? Nothing you've said has been necessary for survival. It's been academic criticism of people risking their safety for the group. Watch as James limps back to camp, clearly injured. David helps support him despite own exhaustion. Sean immediately checks James's injury despite being exhausted himself. Feels strange, unfamiliar sensation watching this. Something twisting in stomach as I realize pattern I've been ignoring. 4th day. Situation becomes dire. Temperature dropping. Food almost gone. Radio contact intermittent. Men working around clock to keep everyone alive. Haven't contributed anything practical. Just continued analysis of their methods. Sitting by fire that Sean built. Eating food David found. Under shelter Robert constructed. For first time really noticing how they've been taking care of everyone including me, while I've been. What exactly have I been doing? Sudden crack of thunder, then downpour. Everyone scrambles for shelter. Notice David immediately checking that everyone made it to safety before securing himself. Sean sharing his jacket with elderly colleague from accounting. James hobbling around on injured ankle to help others despite own pain. Feel something cracking inside my chest. These men I've been attacking, they've been protecting me, providing for me, caring for my safety while I question their motives. Suddenly can't catch my breath. What have I been doing? What have I become? Rain continues through night. Temperature plummets. Wake up, shivering in early morning. Notice extra blanket covering me that wasn't there before. Sean sitting nearby keeping watch. Looks like he hasn't slept. Did you Did you give me your blanket? He looks over tiredly. You were shivering. Hypothermia is dangerous. Feel tears starting, but I've been so horrible to you. His voice is gentle despite exhaustion. That doesn't mean you deserve to freeze. Breaks something fundamental inside me. I start sobbing uncontrollably. 4 days of accumulated realization hitting at once. These men I've been calling oppressors have been sacrificing for my safety. While I attacked their character, they protected my life. While I questioned their motives, they shared their resources. While I dismissed their humanity, they preserved mine. Sean awkwardly pats my shoulder. Hey, it's okay. We're all under stress. Making excuses for me, even now. Even now, showing compassion. I never showed him. No, it's not okay. Choking on words. Nothing about this is okay. David hears commotion, approaches carefully. Everything all right, Hannah? Look at his gaunt face. See kindness in his eyes, despite everything I put him through. David, I'm so sorry. I'm so incredibly sorry. Confusion crosses his features. Sorry for what? For everything. For dismissing your pain about your son. For minimizing your custody situation. For treating you like an enemy when you were just trying to share your experience. He sits down slowly. Hannah. No, let me say this. You've been nothing but kind to me. All of you have. And I've been cruel. Needlessly, pointlessly cruel. Robert joins group, looking concerned. Hannah, what's going on? Turn to him with tears streaming. Robert, I owe you the biggest apology of all. You tried to protect everyone, including me, and I accused you of discrimination. You were doing your job, trying to maintain basic human decency, and I made it about oppression. His face softens. We all say things we don't mean under stress, but I did mean it. That's the horrible part. I believed every word. I believed you were all my enemies simply because you're men. I believed your pain didn't matter. Your struggles weren't real. Your perspectives were invalid. James hobbles over on injured ankle, heard crying. Is someone hurt? Gesture at him through tears. You're hurt, James. You've been hurt and working anyway. And when you told me about fighting for workers' compensation, I dismissed it. I implied you were probably faking or exaggerating. He sits down awkwardly. That's in the past, Hannah. No, it's not. Because I'm still the person who said that. I'm still the person who heard about your injury and made it about male privilege instead of human suffering. Sean speaks quietly. What brought this on, Hannah? Gesture around campsite. This. All of this. Seeing who you really are when it matters. Watching you sacrifice for others, including me. Realizing you've been doing this all along, and I've been blind to it. Look at each of their faces. I've been so wrong about everything. About all of you. About feminism. About how the world actually works. David shifts uncomfortably. Hannah, you don't have to. Yes, I do, because I need to say this, and you need to hear it. Every single day at work, you men have been considerate, professional, kind, and every single day I've attacked you for it. Voice breaking when Sean mentioned working 60-hour weeks. Instead of showing concern, I made it about my imagined oppression. When David shared his heartbreak about custody, instead of offering support, I blamed him for his own pain. When Robert tried to address my hostile behavior, instead of self-reflection, I accused him of bias. They're all listening quietly, no judgment in their faces. I realized something watching you these past 4 days. You've been taking care of everyone, including me, sharing food, providing shelter, ensuring safety, checking on well-being. And you've been doing it naturally, without praise or recognition, because it's who you are. Wipe tears. While I've been analyzing and criticizing and lecturing about oppression, you've been actually caring for people. You've been living the values I claim to represent. Robert speaks gently. Hannah, we all have different ways of contributing. Shake head vigorously. No, Robert, that's generous, but it's not true. I haven't been contributing anything positive. I've been tearing down good people because ideology told me you were bad. Look directly at Sean. Sean, you've been depressed, and I called it male fragility. But watching you these days, seeing how you put everyone else's needs before your own, working yourself to exhaustion to keep us alive, your depression makes sense. You care so deeply about others that you neglect yourself. His eyes fill with tears. Hannah. And David, your pain about losing custody isn't male entitlement. It's a father's love for his child. Watching you care for James when he got injured, seeing how naturally protective and nurturing you are. Of course you were the better parent. Of course, losing that relationship broke your heart. David starts crying softly. Thank you for saying that. Turn to Robert, and Robert, you weren't discriminating against me. You were trying to protect good employees from harassment. You were doing exactly what HR should do. Protecting people from hostility disguised as activism. He nods slowly. I was trying to find a way to help everyone, including me. You were trying to help me too, and I was too blinded by ideology to see it. James speaks quietly. What changed, Hannah? What made you see things differently? Gesture at his injured ankle, watching you hobble around camp on that injury, still helping others, still putting group needs first. Then remembering how I dismissed your struggle with workers' compensation, seeing the disconnect between who you actually are and who I believed you to be. Voice cracking, I realized feminism lied to me. Not about women deserving equality, but about men being the enemy, about male pain not mattering, about men being naturally selfish and oppressive. They all look surprised at this admission. Watching you these 4 days, seeing your natural instincts to protect and provide and sacrifice for others, none of you are oppressors. You're just human beings trying to do right by the people around you. Sean speaks hesitantly. So, what does this mean, Hannah? Take deep, shaky breath. It means I owe massive apologies to all of you. Specific, detailed apologies for specific, detailed cruelties. Look at Sean. Sean, I apologize for dismissing your depression as male fragility. I apologize for minimizing your work stress. I apologize for treating your legitimate concerns as privilege complaints. I apologize for never once acknowledging your humanity while you showed me nothing but patience. Turn to David. David, I apologize for victim blaming you about custody. I apologize for assuming you were an inadequate parent with no evidence. I apologize for making your heart break about my ideology instead of your reality. I apologize for being cruel when you needed compassion. Face Robert. Robert, I apologize for accusing you of discrimination when you were protecting people. I apologize for making your job harder with manufactured conflicts. I apologize for treating reasonable professional boundaries as oppression. I apologize for calling harassment prevention harassment itself. Turn to James. James, I apologize for minimizing your injury and implying you were dishonest about workers' compensation. I apologize for seeing malice where there was only misfortune. I apologize for adding insult to actual injury, voice becoming stronger, but most importantly, I apologize to all men, not just you four, but all the men I've harmed with my attitudes. All the men whose pain I've dismissed, whose struggles I've minimized, whose humanity I've denied. They're all staring at me in shock. I apologize for believing ideology over evidence, for choosing narrative over reality, for treating half the human population as enemies instead of potential allies. David speaks quietly. Hannah, that's a big realization. It had to be big because the blindness was complete. I couldn't see your goodness because I was convinced it didn't exist. I couldn't hear your pain because I was sure it wasn't real. I couldn't acknowledge your humanity because I'd been taught you didn't possess it. Sean asks, what will you do with this realization? Everything differently. Listen instead of lecture. Show compassion instead of criticism. Treat people as individuals instead of representatives of groups I've been taught to hate. Look at each of them. You've all shown me more grace and kindness than I deserved. You've protected my life while I attacked your character. If that's not proof of fundamental goodness, I don't know what is. Robert nods slowly. We appreciate the apology, Hannah. You shouldn't have to appreciate it. You should have never needed it. Good people like you should never have been treated the way I treated you. Suddenly hear helicopter sounds in distance. Rescue teams finally arriving. As we gather belongings, feel profound gratitude mixed with shame. These men saved my life in every way that matters. Physically, by ensuring my survival in wilderness. Spiritually, by showing me truth about human nature I'd been blind to. Emotionally, by responding to cruelty with kindness until something inside me broke open. Boarding helicopter. Sit between Sean and David. Lean over to Sean when we get back. I want to help however I can, with work stress, with anything you're dealing with. He looks surprised. You don't have to, Hannah. I want to. You've been carrying so much alone, because people like me made it unsafe to share. That needs to change. Turn to David, and I want to hear about your son. Really hear about him. Not as a teaching moment about gender dynamics, but as a father's love for his child. His face lights up slightly. I'd like that. Flying back to civilization, reflecting on complete transformation. 4 days ago, was convinced men were my oppressors. Now understand they've been my protectors all along. Feminism didn't liberate me. It imprisoned me in hatred. Kept me from seeing goodness that was right in front of me. First day back at work. Request meeting with entire team. Stand in front of conference room feeling nervous but determined. I owe everyone here a public apology, but especially the men I've been targeting. Room goes quiet. People look uncomfortable. Over the past months, I've treated male colleagues as enemies rather than individuals. I've dismissed your struggles, minimized your pain, and responded to your humanity with hostility. Can see surprise on faces around room. I was wrong about everything, about oppression, about privilege, about who deserves compassion. I let ideology blind me to the basic decency of people I interact with daily. Voice getting stronger. Sean, you've been nothing but professional and kind while dealing with legitimate workplace stress and personal struggles. Instead of support, I gave you lectures about male privilege. He looks shocked. Hannah, you don't have to. Yes, I do. David, you've been going through heartbreak about custody and financial difficulty while maintaining excellent work performance. Instead of empathy, I blamed you for your own suffering. David's eyes widen in surprise. Robert, you've been trying to maintain fair, professional workplace standards for everyone. Instead of cooperation, I accused you of discrimination for doing your job correctly. Turned to address entire room. I apologize to all the men here. Your perspectives matter. Your struggles are real. Your pain deserves acknowledgement. Your humanity should never have been questioned. Several people look stunned by this reversal. Going forward, I commit to treating everyone as individuals, rather than representatives of groups I've been taught to fear or resent. I commit to listening instead of lecturing. I commit to showing the same kindness you've all shown me despite having every reason not to. Sit down feeling emotionally drained but spiritually lighter. Sean approaches after meeting. Hannah, what happened out there? Smile, sadly. I saw who you really are instead of who I was told you were. Turns out there's a big difference between feminist theory and actual reality. Over following weeks, relationships with male colleagues completely transform. Start having real conversations instead of ideological debates. Learn about Sean's depression stemming from feeling unheard and unvalued. Discover David's genuine devotion to his son and the injustice of his custody situation. Understand Robert's difficult position trying to balance competing employee needs. Begin to see patterns I'd been blind to. Men around me facing real struggles I dismissed as insignificant. Workplace pressures, family court bias, social isolation, emotional suppression. Problems that feminism taught me didn't exist or didn't matter. Start speaking up when I hear women dismiss male concerns. Challenge feminist friends when they generalize about men's motivations. Lose some relationships but gain something more valuable. Integrity, alignment between values and actions. 6 months later, Sean approaches my desk. Hannah, I wanted to thank you. Look up, confused. Thank me for what? For changing, for seeing us as human beings, for making this workplace somewhere men can actually share struggles without being attacked. Feel tears starting. I should thank you, Sean, all of you, for showing me grace I didn't deserve until I learned to extend it myself. He smiles. We all learned something out there. Nod slowly. I learned the biggest lie feminism tells isn't about women's capabilities. It's about men's nature. Once you start actually looking at individual men instead of ideological categories, the whole oppressor narrative falls apart. David joins conversation. So what's your worldview now, Hannah? Think for a moment that people are individuals, that suffering is suffering regardless of gender, that kindness matters more than ideology, that I spent years being cruel to good people because I valued being right over being human. Robert passes by, overhears, sounds like wisdom, Hannah. Smile sadly, wisdom earned through hurting people who didn't deserve it. Expensive wisdom. Sean pats my shoulder, but wisdom nonetheless, and you've used it to become someone better. Looking around office at male colleagues I once saw as enemies, now see them clearly. Flawed humans like myself, doing their best, deserving compassion. Feel grateful for wilderness experience that shattered my delusions, for crisis that revealed character, for men who responded to years of hostility with patience and grace. Most importantly, grateful for second chance to be a better person, to treat people with dignity regardless of gender, to choose humanity over ideology, to apologize to all men for believing they were my enemies when they were always just fellow travelers trying to find their way.